Okay. And we're live.
Okay, I think it works. Okay. Hold on, let me post it. Okay, hold on. Okay, I think you can go, because the link is working and I posted it. Okay, yeah, people are on. You can start.
Are people actually on?
What?
The people are watching me?
Yes. I think.
Oh.
I don't know, a few people chatted me saying that they're watching you, so.
Like right now? Or like...
Yeah, right now.
Okay.
Awesome.
Hi, everybody. Should I start from the beginning or should I go from where I left
maybe
off?
summarize a little bit of the beginning, if you can, and then go on if that, like, I don't know. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so sorry.
Okay. So, what we spoke about before, I'm going to summarize it, is that we spoke about a man named Darwin Smith who never tried to stop being qualified for his position. He was one of the greatest. He's ranked as one of the top 5 CEOs of all time. There's a company called Kimberly-Clark, where your teachers are from, right? But the most important thing was that he was very humble. He never took credit for anything that he did. And rather, he liked to hang out with the plumbers and the electricians and everyone else that wasn't in the prestigious offices of the executive offices. Rather, he liked to be down with the workers because that's where he felt like he belonged. Right? He was humble in everything I did. And what Rashi says in Gemara Sota is that a humble person realizes that all humans come from the earth, right? They're all dust. No matter what they do, no matter what they say, no matter how far they get, they all come from the dust, and they're all going to go back to the dust, right? It says in multiple places in the Torah. Then I told a story about Superman, but this takes away the climax of the whole story because I told you before I told the story, but I don't have that much time. And we spoke about how Superman was a lost boy, right? He was searching for meaning, and he had a mixed up identity. He didn't really know what to do, where to go. And that really led us to understanding that there's basically everyone like that, and even Superman has a flaw, right? Even the greatest superhero of all time, and I apologize to some people, but even the greatest superhero of all time, he also had flaws. And then we went into the understanding of the 4 sons, the wise son, the wicked son, the simple son, the clueless son, right? And we spoke about how each one of them has a flaw. The wise son has the intellectual flaw, right? He doesn't have humility when it comes to intellect. He always thinks he's smarter than everybody else. And then you have the wicked son who's always trying to find the negative and excludes himself from all the Judaism that he always speaks about. As well, you have the simple son who shows interest but doesn't really have any meaning behind it. He just does it because that's what he's supposed to do. Then you have the clueless son that knows what he's supposed to do, but he doesn't do it. He purposely goes against it, doesn't ask any questions. Right, which you could also say that that's the worst of the 4 sons because he doesn't ask questions. He doesn't want to know what's happening. But then after those 4 sons, that's really where we got up to. And then to continue what the Shuir is that the 5th son, there's a 5th son. And that 5th son could really exercise what we're really trying to talk about, which is the 5th son that doesn't really know that he's Jewish at all. Right? He has his ancestry as Jewish, but on the outskirts, over the period of time, he's lost his identity, he's lost his sense of Judaism. Right? And that all leads back to what I was speaking about, which was that in Judaism now there are many different sects of Judaism. There's Reform, Conservative, religious, modern Orthodox, far to the right, far to the left, right? You can mention multiple things. But one thing that I want to bring in full circle here is that in Judaism there's one thing, and that one thing is that everyone's serving a monotheistic God. Everyone's serving the Torah, right? And the fact that there's different sects is because of in the past you had people that didn't like this person or didn't like this person. Or he wasn't able to go with this person because he didn't like what he was doing religiously. Or he didn't like what he was doing religiously here, right? And there are multiple people that judge people on a regular basis because they don't like what they're doing religiously. And what I'm trying to say is that similar to Darwin Smith, who I started with, was that no matter even though he wasn't an executive, even though he could have been on the top floor, he didn't even have to interact with the workers on the bottom floor. Yet he chose to go down and accept and get to know who they were. So too, having humility is knowing that everyone always has something to give. Right? It always says in Gemara Sanhedrin, it says that you cannot teach someone else unless you know yourself first. Right? You can't correct someone else unless you correct yourself first. And that's what Rabbi Charles Saunders says also, is that the greatest is that the hardest thing to do is to look at yourself and say there's something wrong, right? And the flaws you see in someone else is really the flaws that you really know that you have yourself. And you're really taking it out. You're saying, oh yeah, you're flawed because of this, but really what we're saying is that I'm flawed because I have issues with my own character. Now, that all leads into the four sons where there's the wicked son, who we always think is the worst son. But at the same time, the wicked son really just takes one opportunity where you can take the fire that he has to go against Judaism and find the flaws in Judaism, really take that and just tell him one thing, really find one thing that really he connects with, and he takes all that fire that he has to go against Judaism and really puts it towards Judaism. But what does that take? That takes acceptance of someone that you don't like so much, as well as it takes the humility to know that he has something to give you. Right? Most people say, oh, you're Reformed, you're not religious, I know more than you, and you don't know as much as me, so don't talk to me. Right? There are multiple things where we run into issues like that, and that really comes to understanding of, okay, this person, but I know that he has a flaw, but maybe I have the opportunity to try and talk to him and really find out what's really bothering him. Right? And that comes to not to view yourself as oh, I know more than you, don't talk to me type of thing. Rather, it comes with humility, and with humility comes great leadership. Like I was saying before, the greatest leaders that we have were humble as well. We had Moshe, right? You have secular leaders like Abraham Lincoln and Gandhi, and Winston Churchill is one of my favorites. But really, you also see it in Yeshua when the Jews, when Moshe passed away, right? The Jews needed a new leader. And they chose Yeshua because he understood the Torah, he listened to what Moshe was saying, but he also was the one that stayed after everyone left and cleaned up the shul, made sure that the shul was clean. And one story just to really bring it all home is that from the greatest CEOs, there was one CEO that said, I want to look out from my porch at one of the great companies in the world someday and say, right, when you're old, okay, you're sitting around your porch, okay, you're drinking some iced tea, laid back, and you're reading the newspaper and you see a great company. And the great company, you want to say, I used to work there. You don't want to say, I used to run that company. You want to say, I used to work there. Why? Because it's all inclusive. It's all one. And a great leader understands that it's not just him or her that's going to make the company succeed. Rather, it's going to be you yourself that is going as one person that connects with another person, connects with another person, connects with another person. It all leads it all into one nation as a whole. As the Gemara says, every time you do a mitzvah, every time you do a good deed, it affects the entire nation. Every time you do a bad deed, right, when you do an avera, that also affects the entire nation. So everything that you do as a singular person really affects the whole. So too, when you understand that just because he's reformer, just because he's conservative, or just because he's not Jewish at all, or just because he's not religious at all, it doesn't mean that you can't talk to him. It doesn't mean that you can't bring him in, invite him to your house invite him over to your house for Shabbos. Invite him over just to learn a little bit, or just to have lunch and talk to him, go back and forth, see where he's standing, right? And slowly but surely get to know him, and then allow him to see what you see in regards to Judaism. Whether you want him to be Orthodox, want him to be religious, just to get him to understand that you and him are the same person, you and her are the same person. But you're all under the Torah, right? You don't judge the Torah by its practitioners, right? By the people that practice it. Don't judge it by the people that do the bad things, they steal all over the news. Rather, judge it by the Torah itself, judge it by the book itself, and that will really lead into, one, your humility. It will really help you understand that you are like dust, right? Not in a negative way, but rather in a way where we all come from the same place. We shouldn't be arrogant to say, oh, she's worse than me, or he's greater than me, right? You can't that's really not acceptable, especially in the Torah, as we see from one of the three commandments that you're supposed to die for, which is one of them is murder, because you can't go and kill somebody else, because, like the Gemara says, you don't know if his blood is more valuable than yours, right? I don't know if my blood is more valuable than his, or if I know my blood is more valuable than this baby's, right? You don't know what's going to happen. So just the message to end off is that the great company that we're going to see from our porch is the company of Judaism, is the company in the nation of Israel, where we want someday to say, that is a great company, and I am in that company, and I still exist in that company, because that company is great, and that nation of the Jews are great. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. That was great. Thank you. I think a few people have questions. One of the questions is kind of about okay, so you were talking about the Reform people and how some people like to think that some people think that they're better than the more practicing Jews. So I think the question is, more practicing Jews could easily think that Jews that practice more could easily think that they're better than the Reform or conservative Jews. Like if you look at someone, and someone is, there's one person that observes Shabbat and eats kosher and tries to keep all the mitzvot and tries not to judge people and tries not to gossip, and you look at that person, and then you look at another person that doesn't dress so modestly, doesn't do any of those things, just doesn't seems like a fine person but just doesn't really do those things. How can you balance not judging them and not doing that if you see that according to the Torah it seems to be that religious person seems to be a better person? Do you understand what I'm saying? Sorry, that was worded weirdly.
You understand what I'm saying? So
okay, thank you.
I can answer this with two stories.
Okay.
The first, I'm going to answer it in this way. I'm going to answer it with two stories. The first story is one when I was on a train when I was in college. I took a train to Far Rockaway, New York, and I was sitting in one bench right on the train, and then across, a little bit across from me, was another girl, not dressed neatly at all, right, with a tank top. I'm not even sure if it was a skirt or if it was nothing, but either way. What it was that then all of a sudden, right, it's Friday afternoon, and she gets on the phone and she says, she's talking in Hebrew, and she says that she's grandma's house for Shabbos, right? So originally, I get on the train, I'm like, okay, there are no Jews here. This girl's not Jewish at all. Then all of a sudden, she says that she's going to go to Shabbos with her grandma, right? So one, you're taking a step where you're saying, okay, she's not Jewish, and then all of a sudden, you completely change your mindset, right? But then that's just one idea where you don't judge a book by its cover. Right, because you think someone's Jewish and they're not Jewish, but then you think that they are Jewish, but they're not really Jewish. Right, but there's another story that I heard a couple months ago, where there was one time a Rosh Yeshiva, the head of one of our prominent yeshivas in Europe. He came to an elementary school type of yeshiva, where the top students, that he was trying to recruit the top students for his yeshiva, and when he comes to visit school, the Rosh Yeshiva of that school. Right, he's taking, or she was looking for the student. He's taking him around, showing him all the students. He says, "So this is our top student," and he's just up. He go right, so on and so forth. So he sees them walking out of the yeshiva. This top student with then another student who struggles really in his learning, but he's in school because he has great midos, right? He has great character. So what he sees is that when they're walking, they come by a branch, and the very learned, the top scholar, he goes and walks and steps on the branch. While the other student, the one that's just his friend, right, not even being considered for the yeshiva, he goes and he walks around the branch. The Rosh Yeshiva that's looking for the top students chose the student that walked. He says that he wants someone that walks around the branch rather than the one that walks on the branch, because someone with a sensitivity of walking around the branch rather than the one walking over the branch really shows more potential and really shows that once you find a way to teach him something, that will lead in to him having greater potential and reaching greater heights than the one that's already so learned and already so advanced in his learning. So, how does that answer your question? Answer the question with, you can't, those two stories together, you can't judge a book by its cover. You can't judge a book by saying, oh, just because this person judged Rostinski doesn't mean that they can end up being the greatest Talmud, right? You have Rabbi the Rosh Yeshiva that just died. That was the Rosh Yeshiva of the Mir, I believe. I could be wrong. The Rosh Yeshiva of the Mir from Chicago, right? Right, he went to Ida Crown to play basketball. right? But no one thought that he was going to be the great rabbi that he was leading the top yeshiva in the world. Rather, they thought he was going to grow up to be someone like me or someone like you. Right? So you can't judge someone by the way they look. Rather, you have to judge by the way they have to act. Right? Actions always speak louder than words. Someone can be very learned, but at the same time, if they don't have meanings to go along with it, then it sets a bad precedent. I hope that answers the question. If it doesn't,
yeah, that definitely does. Definitely does. Okay, let me see if there's any other questions. Okay, I don't think so. Let me just see one more time. Okay, great. Okay, I don't think there are any more questions. That was great. Thank you so much. Thanks for taking your time. And yeah, there's going to be a Google Shuir, another one in a few weeks, so everyone stay posted for that. But thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Bye.